My boyfriend abandoned me and our daughter on a dark beach. Should I leave him? I don't even know where to start with this. I've been with my boyfriend for 8 years. 8 years. We have a 4-year-old daughter together. We've built a life, you know? And now I'm sitting here at almost midnight, staring at my phone, trying to figure out if what happened tonight is actually as bad as I think it is, or if I'm losing my mind. He thinks I'm overreacting. He's actually mad at me right now. But I can't shake this feeling in my chest, this tightness that won't go away. It feels like something fundamental just shifted in our relationship, and I don't know if we can come back from it. Let me back up and tell you what happened, and you can tell me if I'm being dramatic or if my gut is right about this being a massive red flag. So my boyfriend got off work today around 4:30. It's a Tuesday, nothing special, just a regular workday for him. Our daughter had been begging all afternoon to go see the tide pools at our local harbor. If you're not familiar with the area, it's this really safe, family-friendly spot right along the coast. Locals go there all the time when the tide's low to look at the sea creatures in the pools, starfish, anemones, little crabs, that kind of thing. The water's calm, it's just a short walk from the parking lot, and there's a nice stairway down to the beach. We've been there dozens of times during the day. My daughter is at that age where she's obsessed with everything ocean-related. She has this little book about tide pool creatures that she makes me read every single night. So when she heard Daddy was almost home, she started jumping up and down, pulling on my sleeve. Please, Mommy, can we go see the tide pools? Please, please, please. You know how 4-year-olds are. Once they get an idea in their head, there's no rest until you at least consider it. When my boyfriend got home, she ran to the door and immediately started her campaign. He looked at me with this tired expression, you know, the one after a long day at work, but our daughter has him wrapped around her finger. He smiled and said, "All right, let's go for a quick look before dinner." I'll be honest, I was a little hesitant because it was already starting to get dark. It was probably around 5 o'clock by the time we actually got out the door, and the sun sets early this time of year. But he seemed fine with it, and like I said, it's a very safe area. We figured we'd just stop for 15 or 20 minutes, let her look around with a flashlight, and then head home. The drive overtook maybe 10 minutes. My daughter was chattering away in the back seat about what animals she hoped to see. When we got to the parking lot, there were only 2 other cars there, which made sense given the time. The sun was almost completely down by then, that deep blue twilight where you can still see but you definitely need a light source. We walked down the stairs to the beach, and I could see the tide was super low. Like, really low. You could see all these rocks and pools that are usually underwater. It was actually perfect for tide pool exploring, just not perfect timing with the darkness. There was another dad down there with his 2 kids, maybe 5 and 7 years old. They had flashlights and were crouched down looking at something in one of the pools. My daughter's eyes lit up, and before I could even say anything, she'd run over to join them. The dad smiled at us, one of those friendly parent nods like, "Kids, right?" His kids seemed excited to show our daughter what they'd found. I had my phone with me, so I turned on the flashlight and walked over to where the kids were playing. Here's the thing about my phone, though. The battery is absolutely terrible. I've been meaning to get it replaced for months, but you know how it is, you keep putting it off. It was already down to maybe 15 or 20% when we got there. I'd been using it throughout the day for various things, and I just hadn't had a chance to charge it. My boyfriend knew this. I'd literally mentioned it in the car on the way over. I said something like, "My phone's almost dead, so we should make this quick." He looked at his phone and said his was fully charged, so no problem. When we first got down to the beach, he hung back a bit near where the stairs met the sand. He was looking around, taking in the scenery, I guess. I was focused on our daughter, making sure she wasn't getting too close to the water or bothering the other family too much. She was being sweet though, asking the other kids questions and listening to them explain what they'd found. The dad seemed totally fine with it, even helping her spot a tiny crab. After maybe 5 minutes, my boyfriend walked up next to me. I was crouched down, shining my phone light into a pool so our daughter could see better. He said, kind of casually, "I'm gonna go check out that cave down the beach." I looked up at him. There's this cave formation a ways down the coastline. It's not close. We're talking a few miles down along this rocky, rugged trail that runs at the base of the cliffs. During the day, when the tide's low, some people like to explore down there. But it's not a casual walk. The trail is uneven, there are lots of rocks, and you have to really watch your footing. I immediately said, "No, don't go. It's too dark for that." He didn't respond. He just kind of looked in that direction. I said it again, more firmly this time. "Seriously, don't go down there. It's pitch dark. We don't know how much longer the tide will be low, and my phone's about to die." The tide thing is important. That cave is only accessible during low tide. When the tide comes in, the water blocks the entrance, and the whole area becomes dangerous. We had no idea if the tide was still going out, or if it had already turned and was coming back in. Going down there in the dark without knowing the tide schedule was just stupid. He still didn't say anything. "No, okay. No, fine. No, don't worry about it." Nothing. He just stood there for a moment and then started walking back toward where we'd come down to the beach. I genuinely assumed that meant he decided to stay close by. That he'd heard my concerns and was being reasonable about it. I turned my attention back to our daughter. The other kids were showing her how to gently touch a sea anemone to make it retract. She was being so careful and gentle, it was really sweet to watch. I was trying to keep my phone light steady so they could all see. Maybe 5 minutes passed. My phone battery was dropping fast because the flashlight drains it like crazy. I glanced at it and saw it was down to 8%. I called out, "Hey, we need to head back soon. My phone's almost dead." No response. I looked around, trying to spot him in the darkness. I couldn't see him anywhere. There were no other lights besides mine and the other family's flashlights. I called his name. "Hey, where are you?" Nothing. I called louder. "Hello? Can you hear me?" Still nothing. That's when the first real wave of unease hit me. I stood up, leaving our daughter with the other family for a second, and walked back toward the stairs, thinking maybe he'd gone back up to the parking lot for some reason. But I couldn't see any movement up there, no lights, nothing. I walked back to where the kids were. The other dad looked at me with concern. "Everything okay?" "I can't find my boyfriend," I said, trying to keep my voice calm so I wouldn't alarm the kids. "He was just here a minute ago." The dad stood up and shined his flashlight around. "Want me to help look?" "No, it's okay," I said, not wanting to inconvenience him. "I'm sure he's just..." But I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure of anything. I looked down at my phone. 6%. The screen dimmed as I watched, the battery icon flashing red. I had maybe a few more minutes of light at most. I called his name again, louder this time. My voice probably had an edge of panic to it. Our daughter looked up at me, sensing something was wrong. "Where's Daddy?" she asked in that small voice kids get when they're picking up on adult anxiety. "He's around here somewhere, sweetie," I said, trying to sound reassuring. And then my phone died. Just like that. The screen went black, and suddenly, the only light was from the other family's flashlights. The darkness felt different then. Heavier, more oppressive. The sound of the waves seemed louder. I couldn't see more than a few feet in any direction outside the circle of light from the other dad's flashlight. I felt this surge of panic, mixed with anger. He knew my phone was dying. I'd told him twice not to wander off. And now here I was, alone on a dark beach with our 4-year-old daughter, and a man I didn't know from Adam. A nice man, sure. He seemed perfectly kind and normal, but still a stranger. "Mommy?" My daughter's voice was smaller now, uncertain. I walked over and picked her up, holding her close. "It's okay, baby. We're going to head back to the car now." The other dad, bless him, immediately understood the situation. "Here, let me walk you folks back to the stairs," he said. "I've got the light." "Thank you," I managed to say, my throat tight. "I really appreciate it." He gathered up his kids, and we all made our way across the beach toward the stairs. His flashlight bobbed ahead of us, illuminating the uneven ground. I held my daughter tight, one hand supporting her bottom, the other around her back. She wrapped her arms around my neck. "Is Daddy lost?" she whispered in my ear. "No, honey. He's just somewhere else right now." When we got to the stairs, I thanked the dad again profusely. He seemed concerned. "Are you sure you're okay? Do you need me to wait with you?" "No, we're fine," I said, though I didn't feel fine at all. "Thank you so much for your help." He and his kids headed up to the parking lot. I could see their car lights come on. Then they drove away. And there I was, standing at the base of the stairs in near total darkness, my phone dead, my boyfriend nowhere to be found, my daughter getting heavier in my arms. I carried her up the stairs. They're not super long, but they're steep enough that by the time I got to the top, I was breathing hard. The parking lot was dim, lit only by a couple of distant streetlights. Our car was there, locked, dark. No sign of him. "Maybe Daddy went to see the boats," I said to our daughter, trying to sound upbeat. "There's a small dock area nearby where some fishing boats tie up. Let's go check." I walked over there, my eyes gradually adjusting to the darkness. There were a few boats swaying gently in their slips, but no people. No boyfriend. No lights besides the occasional lantern on a boat deck. I stood there for a moment, not sure what to do. I couldn't call him because my phone was dead. I couldn't leave because our daughter shouldn't be out in the cold, and I didn't have the car keys anyway, he did. So I just waited. And waited. Our daughter started to shiver. The temperature had dropped, and she was only wearing a light jacket. I sat down on a bench near the parking lot and pulled her onto my lap, wrapping my arms around her to keep her warm. "Where's Daddy?" she asked again, and this time there was a little wobble in her voice. "He'll be here soon, sweetheart," I said, kissing the top of her head. "He'll be here soon." But I was furious. Absolutely furious. Each minute that passed felt like an hour. I kept replaying the conversation in my head. I'd told him not to go. Twice. I'd explained about my phone dying. And he just, what? Decided his desire to explore a cave was more important than staying with his family? More important than our safety? 20 minutes passed. Maybe longer. It's hard to judge time when you're sitting in the dark, cold and angry and worried all at once. My daughter had gone quiet, her head resting against my chest. I think she might have dozed off a little. And then, finally, I saw a figure approaching from the opposite direction, from down the coastline. A light bobbing in the darkness. As it got closer, I could see it was him. Relief and rage hit me simultaneously. I stood up, jostling our daughter awake. He walked up casually, like he'd just been gone for a minute. "Hey, what are you guys doing up here?" he asked, slightly out of breath. I stared at him. "What are we doing up here? What are we doing up here? Where the hell have you been?" He seemed surprised by my tone. "I went to check out the cave. I told you I was going to. And I told you not to," I said, my voice shaking now. "I told you twice not to go. I told you my phone was dying. And you just left? You left us alone down there in the dark?" "You were fine," he said dismissively. "There was that other family right there." A family of strangers. My voice was rising now, and our daughter whimpered. I took a breath, trying to calm down for her sake. I was alone on a dark beach with our 4-year-old, and people I don't know. My phone died. I had no way to contact you. No light. No idea where you were. "You shouldn't have left the beach," he said, and there was an edge to his voice now. "I would have found you if you'd stayed put." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My phone died. It was pitch dark. I had to get our daughter somewhere safe. "You're making a big deal out of nothing," he said, pulling out his keys. "I was only gone for like 20 minutes. Try 30 or 40, I shot back. "And it's not nothing. You knew my phone was dying. You knew it was dark. I specifically asked you not to go, and you went anyway." He unlocked the car and opened the back door to put our daughter in her car seat. "Look, I don't want to fight about this. I'm sorry if you were worried, but I didn't do anything wrong. You're overreacting." That word. Overreacting. Like my very legitimate concerns about being abandoned in the dark with our child were just me being dramatic. The drive home was silent except for our daughter's soft questions about why mommy and daddy were mad. We both gave her non-answers, trying to keep her out of it. But the tension in the car was thick enough to cut. When we got home, I got our daughter ready for bed while he disappeared into the living room. I read her an extra story, needing the comfort of the routine, the normalcy of it. She kept asking if everything was okay, if mommy and daddy were still friends. I assured her everything was fine, that sometimes grown-ups disagree, but it doesn't mean we don't love each other. But as I said those words, I wondered if they were true. After she was asleep, I went to find him. He was on the couch, scrolling through his phone. I sat down in the chair across from him. "We need to talk about what happened," I said. He sighed heavily, like I was being a burden. "There's nothing to talk about. You're upset, I get it, but I honestly don't think I did anything wrong." "You don't think?" I started, then stopped, trying to collect my thoughts. "Let me make sure I understand this. You don't think there was anything wrong with leaving your girlfriend and your 4-year-old daughter alone on a dark beach after being told multiple times not to? You weren't alone. There was another family right there." "Strangers," I repeated. "People we don't know. And what if something had happened? What if our daughter had gotten hurt, or there'd been an emergency? My phone was dead. I had no way to contact you, or anyone else." He set his phone down, his jaw tight. "Nothing happened though. You're catastrophizing." "I'm not catastrophizing. I'm talking about basic safety and communication." I expressed a concern. "You ignored it. That's the problem." "I'm 42 years old," he said, his voice rising slightly. "I don't need permission to go explore a beach." "This isn't about permission." I was struggling to keep my voice down, aware our daughter was sleeping down the hall. "This is about being a partner, about being a parent, about taking your family's safety and comfort seriously." He stood up. "I can't deal with this right now. You're being irrational." And then he walked away, just walked into our bedroom and closed the door. I sat there alone in the living room, my hands shaking slightly. Irrational. Overreacting. Catastrophizing. All the words designed to make me feel like my very reasonable concerns were just me being crazy. But here's the thing, I don't feel crazy. I feel abandoned. I feel disrespected. I feel like my boyfriend just showed me, very clearly, that when it comes down to it, what he wants to do is more important than how safe or comfortable his family feels. This isn't the first time something like this has happened. Not exactly like this, but there's a pattern I'm starting to see now that I'm really thinking about it. Times when I've expressed a concern or a boundary, and he's either ignored it or minimized it. Times when his wants have taken precedence over what I've said I need. Last year, I told him I was uncomfortable with how much time he was spending with his ex-girlfriend who'd moved back to town. Not because I'm a jealous person, I'm really not, but because they were hanging out alone regularly and she'd made comments about still having feelings for him. He told me I was being insecure and kept hanging out with her anyway. It eventually stopped after she tried to kiss him, and he finally saw what I'd been seeing all along. A few months ago, I asked if we could create a budget together because we were overspending and it was stressing me out. He said we didn't need a budget, he had it under control. Then we overdrew our account because he'd forgotten about several automatic payments. And there have been smaller things too. Times when I've asked him to help more with household chores, and he said he will, but then doesn't. Times when I've told him our daughter needs to be in bed by a certain time, and he's kept her up late anyway because he wanted to watch a movie with her. Individually, maybe these things aren't huge, but together, they paint a picture of someone who doesn't really take my input seriously. Who hears what I say, but doesn't really listen. And tonight feels like the culmination of all of that. Because tonight wasn't about something small or inconsequential. Tonight was about our physical safety, about being literally left in the dark with our child. And his response wasn't to apologize, wasn't to understand why that was scary and wrong, but to get defensive and turn it around on me. I've been sitting here for the past 2 hours, going over and over it in my mind, wondering if I am overreacting, wondering if I should just let it go. But I keep coming back to one central question. If this was happening to my best friend, if she came to me and told me this story, what would I tell her? I think I'd tell her that this is a massive red flag. That a partner who truly cares about you doesn't dismiss your concerns about safety. That a parent who takes their responsibilities seriously doesn't wander off into dangerous terrain in the dark after being asked not to. That someone who loves you doesn't make you feel crazy for having very reasonable boundaries and expectations. I think I'd tell her that at some point, you have to stop making excuses for someone's behavior and start believing what they're showing you about who they are. And what my boyfriend showed me tonight is that when push comes to shove, his desires come first. His judgment supersedes mine, even when mine is based on legitimate safety concerns. My feelings about being abandoned don't matter as much as his feelings about being challenged. We've been together for 8 years. 8 years. We have a child together. We've built a life. The thought of ending it is terrifying. Where would I go? How would we split custody? What would I tell our daughter? But the thought of staying is maybe even more terrifying. Because if he can do this now, if he can be this dismissive and callous about something this serious, what does that mean for our future? What happens the next time I have a concern and he decides it's not valid? What happens when our daughter gets older and starts expressing her own needs and boundaries? I don't want to raise her in a home where she learns that her voice doesn't matter, where she sees her mother being dismissed and disrespected and thinks that's normal. That's not the example I want to set. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I am overreacting. Maybe this is just one bad night, one lapse in judgment, and I'm making too much of it. Except it doesn't feel like just one bad night. It feels like the moment when everything came into focus. When I finally saw clearly what I've been trying not to see for a while now. I don't know what I'm going to do. Part of me wants to pack a bag right now and go to my mom's house. Part of me wants to wait until morning, try to have another conversation when we're both calmer, see if he can actually hear me this time. Part of me is holding on to hope that this is fixable, that he'll wake up tomorrow and realize how serious this is, that he'll genuinely apologize and commit to doing better, that we can work through this. But another part of me, the part that's been growing louder over the past few hours, is whispering that it's already too late, that this isn't about one night on a beach. It's about 8 years of slowly learning that my voice carries less weight than his. My concerns are less valid. My needs are less important. And I don't know if you can come back from that realization. I'm writing this all out because I need to hear from people who aren't in this situation, who can look at it objectively. Am I overreacting? Is this something couples can work through? Or is my gut right that this is a fundamental problem, a core incompatibility that's finally showing its true face? Because right now, at almost midnight, sitting alone in my living room while my boyfriend sleeps peacefully in our bed like nothing happened, I'm seriously considering whether 8 years is enough. Whether this is the last straw. I never thought I'd be here. Never thought I'd be questioning my entire relationship because of one night. But it doesn't feel like just one night. It feels like the night everything changed. The night I finally stopped making excuses and started seeing clearly. And what I see isn't pretty. My daughter deserves a father who takes her safety seriously, who listens when concerns are raised, who models respect and communication and partnership. I deserve a partner who treats my input as valuable, who takes my concerns seriously rather than dismissing them, who doesn't make me feel crazy for having very reasonable expectations about safety and communication. And I'm not sure the man sleeping in my bedroom right now is capable of being either of those people. So I'm asking, really asking, because I need outside perspective here. Am I the asshole for thinking this might be it? For considering ending an 8-year relationship, breaking up our family because my boyfriend left us alone on a dark beach? Or is this exactly the kind of situation that shows you who someone really is, and I'd be the asshole to ignore it? I honestly don't know anymore. But I know I can't keep living like this. Like my voice doesn't matter. Like my concerns are just obstacles for him to overcome or dismiss. Something has to change. Either he needs to change, or I need to change my situation. And I'm terrified that I already know which one it's going to be.
Alright, that's it for today. See you in the next one.